is the Ridiculously Amazing Insurance Agent Podcast, hosted by me, Kelly Donahue-Piro. This show is for growing insurance agencies looking to maximize their biggest investment, their people. Listen to the top agency performance partners clients share their story on how they boosted their performance by executing a plan. Let's head to the show. Hi everyone, Kelly Donahue-Piro here, and I am so excited about this podcast / video because it's with somebody I really know, respect, and think the world of. So Sue Good is with Alexant Systems, and she's an Epic trainer, consultant, guru, whatever you want to call her. And I just, anytime she explains Epic to me, it's like, that makes magical sense. I've been able to partner with her to write guides for our renewal review calls, our sales. If anybody's using the opportunity section in Epic, if you're not, you should be. And that is so critical. So she's actually partnered with us, knows our programs inside and out. So she does the system part, we do the people part, and it's just a great, great relationship. So if you're in our online school already, you might know Sue. But we talk all about ways we can use Epic for time management because we both hear all the time, I'm so busy. But then we look and we see that the thing that should be powering the agency for efficiency is maybe only used even 50%. That's one of the things she shares with us. So can't wait for you guys to hear this. I'll check back in at the very end see what you think. But if you walk away and don't like Sue Good, I think there's something wrong with you. I'll leave it at that. All right. Well, hello, everyone. I'm so honored to have a special guest here today because she is hot in demand. Her name is Sue Good, and she is an Epic, Applied Systems Epic specialist, trainer, consultant, guru. I don't know. I just think the world of you. All of our clients that use you also think the world of you. So I have the wonderful Sue Good here with us today. So Sue, would you like to take a moment and just introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Kelly. I've been in insurance since early 20s, started at the Hartford in premium accounting, went from carrier to independent agent. My last agency job was a comptroller at an agency in DC and left there 16 years ago to do consulting. Started with, of course, TAM and now with Epic. My focus has always been the data and making sure the data is right. And I was the one who had to run the reports. And when the boss said, can you run me a report? And I'd give him the report and he'd say, that's not what I wanted. I would say, that's what you asked for. Okay, let's start over and say, what are you trying to prove? And I needed to know how those numbers went in there. So I knew how to get the numbers out. So I always look at it from that back end perspective of what are the reports going to look like. And then, of course, the front end with workflows and processes and streamlining everybody's life is how do we get more done efficiently? And how do we decide what's important that we get done first, second, third? And some of those can be very tough conversations with clients. Kelly, as you know, which clients do we spend the most time on? The ones where we're just chasing the people who don't like to pay? Or are we going to spend time with the people that are wonderful clients? Kelly and I are very much in tune with, I've been doing it like this for many years, and to see her program, to see what she does, I'm like, thank you. Somebody finally did this. And the fact that you do the accountability side of it with your clients is so huge. I can set up a process and give you a workflow, but if nobody's making sure you're doing it or tweaking it as it needs to happen, it just falls through the cracks. So I'm very happy to be here and thrilled with what you're doing, Kelly.
Well, that's why we make a good team. So just so you know, Sue has written our retention renewal review call program, how to set it up in Epic, and also how to use sales tracking in Epic because we do sales training as well. So we've kind of had a good relationship with that. And it's funny, I think I have the work crush on you because every time I look at Epic, I think it's like a rocket ship and I'm like, it does so many great things, but I also, a rocket ship takes a long time to learn. You have to go to many years of space camp. And so having an expert like you, I think just helps agencies, because sure, you've seen it. Sometimes they kind of just stop learning about it, or they kind of get stuck because everything's so busy and we're running so fast. I know we said we jump into email, but I just have a quick question before we go into email. When you're working with agencies, what percentage of Epic do you think agencies are using on average?
By the time they reach out to me, it's usually because they're frustrated with Epic and they don't realize what it can do. And I'd say maybe they're using 30-40% of it. At the far end of that, they're using it as a glorified Rolodex and just to get commissions entered. And you're like, wow, what a waste of a huge amount of money to spend on a fabulous system if you're not using it well.
Sure.
And that's their frustration. And then when they learn the efficiencies of Epic and, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Oh, that's easier. It's like, yes, let's first learn how to use Epic well, and then we'll talk about your processes. And it is amazing. All these agencies I can work with, we all do the same thing, but guess what? We all do it differently.
Yes, I have often, and not just the agency, but people inside the agency.
Oh, yes.
Too.
Well, Kelly, and the other thing I see a lot is people come into a new management system like Epic, and they want to use it the same way they use their old system.
Very true.
And from TAM to Epic, we call that, you're trying to Tamarize Epic. And it's like, quit trying to Tamarize Epic. It's not TAM. This is a completely different management system, and you need to learn the shift, the mind shift on that. And that can take a little while. But once they get it, and then they embrace it and love it. And it's like, wow, that was easy. Okay, yes, it is.
Well, I think what's unique about what you do too is, when Applied goes and sells it, they've got trainers, but they're very corporate, where you have seen you've been at that front desk, you've had to run the reports. And so I think there is a disconnect in all the systems. I'm not trying to say Applied's special in this regard, but how you use it versus how you train somebody from a manual that's created in a perfect setting is very different, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so we've got people fighting forest fires out there, and then you look in there, it's like, that's 17 steps. We can't do that way.
Right.
So let's dive in. We know are some of our time management strategies. So I just want to kind of go through, email, right? So many clients are on email. So many Epic users are heavy commercial clientele, commercial agencies. So they primarily get email, right? And I hear all the time, oh my gosh, I got to attach all these emails into Epic. This is going to take me 3 days. And I'm just always like, like, this is one of the most advanced systems on the planet. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about how agencies, maybe you see, use email well in conjunction with Epic, or kind of miss the mark, so that our listeners can understand how to solve that gap.
So the big deal for me with Epic and emails is you can attach an email so many places. But if you attach it anywhere other than an existing activity, Epic gives you another activity. Now, some agencies have turned off that activity, that second, it's called ATCH for attach, because they don't like that. And it's like, okay, well, if you're attaching everything to the policy and you're managing a fleet of vehicles, and there's 5 vehicle changes you have going on at the same time, you have 5 different change activities, which you should have for each change to make sure it comes in correctly. If you're not attaching those emails to the activity it belongs to, now you have a big activity list that you have to go attachment list that you have to go wading through to find all the emails that go with that one change. Instead of start, not by dragging and dropping the email, start with Epic. Start with the action of endorse, revise existing line, because Epic's going to hand you an activity. There's so many places and times in Epic where Epic gives you that activity. Now I have a starting point. Mm-hmm. I have a place to put my notes. I have a place to attach the emails. Now when the endorsement comes in, I go to one place and access attachments. You have an access button. Use it. But the access button is only good if you're attaching things where they belong. And one of the huge changes with Epic 2020, it used to be when we attached something to an activity, we could only get it back from that activity. We couldn't get it back from the policy. But now you can. So if you created that activity when you were doing actions, endorse, revise existing line, everything you attach to that activity is also accessible from that policy for that policy term. So it just got a whole lot easier. And now when you do the drag and drop to the existing activity, you don't get another activity.
Well, that just sounds like it's one big old filing cabinet, right? You're just kind of putting all the little pieces in there. And then I can imagine that finding it later on, 2-3 years down the line, it's so much easier.
It is. If you start at the policy level, access the activities for that policy for that term, you'll see everything that happened. And from the activity, you can access the attachments that drill you down very succinctly to what goes with that process. So the difference in the way I use Epic is my activities are about a process. They're not about a piece of a process. The attachments are the pieces. And I don't need a separate activity every time I attach another piece. I want my processes when I look at everything that happened. So when the client says, what have you done for me lately? I can go to my activity list and go, oh, we did this many changes and we did this many certificates and, you know, we processed the renewal and then the question comes, yeah, but we get a lot of emails about other stuff. We get emails about billing questions and coverage questions. And I'm like, you're right, you do. So when you do a drag and drop to a policy and you get that ATCH activity, you have the ability to add additional activity codes to that list that you can change the ATCH from and to something else. So can you start with the drag and drop? Yes. And this is one scenario where I would do that, is if I get the email with a billing question, drag and drop to the policy, change the ATCH to an inquiry activity, and you could create a separate one for billing inquiries versus coverage inquiries. But now my reply to them is, as I'm sending it out of Epic, the reply out of Epic, I can attach it back. And now with the Outlook Epic integration, even if you're not in Epic, if you're just in Outlook, you can check the box when you're sending that email out to attach an Epic. And it'll pop and say, where do you want to attach it? And I'll say, right on that activity I just created, you know, I'm good. It's all in one place and it's faster. And
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
One of the big deals with email, and Kelly, it's in your time management, is not having more than 10 emails in your Outlook at the end of the day. And my push was always, I don't want any in there that are client related by the end of the day. It's like, you get that on an open activity in Epic and get it out of your Outlook, because if you're not here tomorrow, nobody else can see that email unless they have access to your Outlook.
Yeah, and we like to say the same thing. It just, people usually fall out of their chair.
Yeah, when I say none, yes.
It's like zero, like I'm like, yeah, zero, none, nin. And you know, we have a little caveat. It should be attached if you're going to leave for the day. But you know, there's some agents out there with 5,500 emails in their inbox, and you know, they're using it to search because they think it's easier than looking at Epic, right?
And they end up with multiple folders in their Outlook for all their clients. And now they're spending time to drag and drop things into those folders instead of just getting attached in the management system, deleting it, and you're done. And, you know, just everybody can see it now. That's the most important thing, is everybody can see it. And keep in mind, guys, it's not just your inbox, it's your sent items as well.
It's twofold.
So it's just, this has been going on since email was invented, about getting things attached in the system. And people will ask, well, can I just attach the last one in the thread? And my response to that is, well, you could, if number one, it was never sent to somebody else and they replied to you, or if there was ever an attachment on any of those emails in the thread. Because what happens when you hit reply, there go the attachments.
Right.
So you've got to be extremely careful with that. So to me, and you can grab 10 emails and drag and drop them at the same time on top of the same activity if you want to. You don't have to do them one at a time. And there's a feature in Outlook that you can sort your emails by conversation. So you can see the inbox, the incoming emails and the sent items together. So now I can grab them all at the same time and attach them at once.
I think one of the email things that we hear a lot that gets tricky is who should attach, right? The producer's having this conversation. Somewhere in the middle, they loop the account manager in. Then the producer has these sidebar conversations, and no one's really sure if the conversation is completed, who's doing what, because as we know, emails are a really difficult communication strategy, and producers are not detail orientated sometimes. And so where do you see that fitting into the mix?
That's a huge deal. And different agencies handle it differently. There are some agencies where the thought process is, I do not want my producer in the office. I don't want them sitting in front of a computer. I want them out there selling. And in those scenarios, they need account managers that if they throw up a bunch of balls, the account managers are going to make sure nothing gets dropped. And in those agencies, I see the account managers attaching the emails. In other agencies, especially in personal lines, it's like, no, producer, you're doing your own thing here, man. It's too fast and easy for you to quote this business, for you to pass it off to somebody else and not deal with it, right? Just take care of it. So it runs the gamut on who does what. But do you see a lot of friction between servicing staff and sales staff because of this? Absolutely. And does this need to be very clearly defined on whose roles are whose? And that management understands this, and management is upholding whatever has been defined. Otherwise, it causes a lot of friction. And that goes between servicing and accounting. The accounting department and servicing people can be at total odds with each other because neither understands what the other needs. And listen to what the other person needs. And when it comes to producers in particular, Kelly, you worked with enough producers to know the various personalities of producers, right? And they're beyond detail, not detail oriented. It's just non-existent. So they just learned a long time ago to CC the account manager on everything.
Right.
And one of the advantages to having an account manager involved at the beginning of a sale process is that by the time it's sold, that client knows that account manager very well.
I agree. And I also think too, the biggest thing, and we can kind of move on to the next topic after this, but the one thing, and I've heard it probably like 20 times today, so it's like front of my head is, well, Kelly, it depends. It depends on the account. It depends on the producer. It depends on the account manager. It depends on the time of day. It depends. And I'm always saying, it can't depend. You're hurting the account manager because they can't manage a different setup for every account based on if it's sunny, rainy, snowy, whatever. And the agency can't risk an E&O situation because it can't depend. It has to be more linear than that. Now, you can ask for a favor every now and again. I'm okay with that, but it can't depend.
No, it needs to be clearly defined. And for those account managers who work with multiple producers, having the different depending on each person is awful. Is now this account manager's going, oh, well, yeah, for this producer, I do X, Y, and Z. And for this one, I just do X because that person does Y and Z. And that's, again, not right, not fair. I'm a major fair person.
It leads to all the management spends more time playing Judge Judy over who did what, right? It's like,
yes.
So let's move on to, okay, so this is one that I have a huge mental block in Epic. I think we've probably even talked about it. Epic has tasks, suspenses, activities. There's all these things, and agencies tend to pick one way or the other to use it. Am I right on that?
Yes, except in Epic, there isn't a difference between a suspense and an activity. They're one and the same.
Okay.
So an activity you either leave open, which is suspended, or you close it, but it's still just an activity. Now, it can have tasks.
That's where I get tripped up.
Right. So in Epic, you can configure tasks on an activity. So if we were to do a renewal, if we did actions renew, we could have configured on that RENR activity, that activity code for renewal, to have these 5 tasks. And I could assign those tasks out to various people, including myself, that I could then have tasks. One of the challenges in Epic is running reports on the tasks, okay? And if you assign me a task, it's your activity, Kelly, but you assign me a task, I would see your activity on my home screen. And if I haven't included the column that shows me who owns that activity, like it's you, then I would be looking at it going, oh, am I supposed to do this? If you include the column for the who owner of the activity, if you see a who owner up there that's not your name, your code, that means there's a task for you. So now go down and look to see what the task is. And then you can complete that task. So activities in Epic can be set up to be closed with tasks that have not been completed. So some agencies use tasks as a checklist, an electronic checklist, and they don't force their people to go in and complete every task. Other agencies, nope, they don't want that activity to be closed until all the tasks are complete. So one of the challenges I saw at an agency with that is they had a lot of tasks set up for the account executive, the account manager, the assistant. I mean, they had all kinds of people going here with different tasks. And the assistant was the one who really owned the activity. It was theirs, but these other tasks were handed off to people above them in the food chain. And guess what? The people above them in the food chain didn't complete their tasks. And now the person at the bottom of the food chain has no power to go to the person at the top of the food chain and say, complete your task.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And these poor people had all these activities open because the people above them were not doing what they were supposed to do. So what came out of that is, all right, we're not giving them tasks anymore. It's like, I'm not giving that person above me a task. I'm giving them their own activity. That's theirs to do with as they please, but it's not going to hold up my process, and I can finish my task and my activity. So most agencies I see when they go live on Epic do not use tasks out of the box. They're just like, I just need to get going here. So They're not going to try to do that. They may come back to it later and say, yes, because I have an assistant, or, we have a marketing department and I want to flip this over to marketing for them to do something with it, but I want to hang on to the activity. So there's good uses for tasks, but it needs to be really clearly defined on who's responsible for what, and can I close my activity if you haven't done your job, and should I be closing my activity if you haven't done your job? Because maybe I shouldn't be.
That's really fair. I think one thing I love about Epic, and you'll know more about this than I will, but when we were working on the renewal review call program, you kind of explained that Epic has sort of like, I'm going to use some really crude language, so hopefully you follow me, but you can kind of dump all the tasks into one bucket and people come in and just take the next one in line.
So that's called activity work groups. That's what it's called.
Yes.
So yes, in Epic, you can create a work group. So say I have 4 people in my personal lines department that we all push stuff off to. Is we take the initial request for the change, but they follow up to make sure that it happens. That's a good example of that. So in Epic, you can create what's called an activity work group. So I would call that, and you can create as many groups as you want. So I might call it personalized processing group. So if I'm a member of that processing group, on my home screen, I will see all of the activities for the processing work group. And I can see by the who owner that it's part of the work group.
Yep.
And then if I'm going to work that one, the first thing I do is right click and take ownership. So now the who owner of that activity changes to me. And now the other people in the work group, it falls off their home screen, so they don't see that one. So I love work groups.
Sorry, go ahead.
If your agency is configured that way, that the account manager isn't taking care of everything beginning, middle, and end. If they are, I don't need a work group. But if you have work being passed along, then absolutely set up work groups. They're very useful.
I just love the idea because, and I was on a call with an agency today. They have, 9 locations. 2 locations can't even breathe. They're so overwhelmed. And then 2 are saying to me, we're so slow, And so with work, there's a lot of unbalancing that can happen. And I think the fear with work groups is, well, how do we know it's fair, right? How do I know that you're getting the same amount of work as I am? If I am very efficient, I could come back and do 25% more work than you, or vice versa. And so I think people are having to address some challenges with work groups. But to me, hey, it's all in one bucket. And as a team, we've got to get through this so that one person isn't overwhelmed and one person isn't sitting there bored, right?
And if it's very specific activity codes that go to the work group, meaning, account managers don't do this, the work group does, whatever this processing group is, we can run activity reports, because remember that who owner code is changing to you. When you take ownership, it's now yours. And if you close it, you closed it. And now I can run an activity report to see how many activities were closed by each person in the last week.
I just see so many great uses for it. And I don't see a lot of agencies using it necessarily, because I think it is a shift. Right? Like you said, you can't, what is it? You can't tamize Epic or
Tamarize.
You can't tamarize. So that was not a thing that they could do. And so now it's a huge shift, but I feel like in a lot of ways, that's a really great strategy. So along the same lines with the tasking in Epic, I'm one of our mutual frustrations, I'm certain of this, is you go into an agency and you just see all overdue items, right? And for me, that's like panic attack, right? Like, what? And I think you and I both believe that your day should be operated off of Epic, not your email, not your paper to-do list. It needs to go into Epic. So how can agencies embrace that idea, number one? And can you tell us a little bit more too? It's a 2-part question of like how Epic can help prioritize, because I know a lot of agencies don't use like prioritization, like really coming in. So the most important thing is staring me square in the face. I don't have to use the brain power to figure out what to do first.
So Epic has on any activity, there is a priority, low, medium, or low, urgent, and normal. So you got 3, and everything by default. Now an activity code can be configured in the background to be urgent. So a very specific code could always be urgent. Normally they're just such normal. They don't, you can manually change it in the activity if you want to. Using the home screen well is so huge for me. Like I can train an agency on a new agency on Epic, and I go back, a month later and deal with post-activation training, and nobody has remembered how to use their home screen well. And I always start there. I don't care who I'm talking to. It's like, let's talk about your home screen, because when this gets out of control, it is totally useless.
Right.
It is literally useless. How are you going to figure out what you need to do today?
Right.
Because you got stuff there from, 6 months ago hanging out.
I'm still working on that though, Sue. I'm still working on that.
That's a problem. So with Epic in particular here, with your home screen, you have a right-click menu. It is the one and only screen of Epic where the right-click is different than actions. It's the only screen. And the right-click menu, you can add a note to that activity. You can change a follow-up date. You can change the who owner. You can, there's multiple things you can do. You can add a note. You can add a task from there. You can view all the notes right from your home screen. So if I'm using my activities for my processes and I have a bunch of notes on it, from my home screen, I can right-click view all the notes and get one box with the entire story of what's going on with this activity, which is great. then the other thing you can do from the right click menu is take ownership of it if you got it through a work group. On your home screen, adding columns. If you haven't added additional columns for the activity code, you want to be able to sort on that or filter for it. You want the activity code, you want who entered it, and who the owner is, and one more. Oh, the entered on date. So here's an important one. Yes, you see your follow-up date, but I want you to have a column right next to it that says, this is when you created this activity. So how old is that? So if you're somebody who keeps pushing follow-up dates, it's like, that's a big no-no. It's like, get that sucker done. Know what I mean? So the other huge thing you can do with Epic, with those activities that are on your home screen, you can drag and drop emails right on top of them. So if I have an open activity about a change and the client hasn't given me everything yet, I'm still waiting, and I get an email with part of it, I can right click, add a note to that activity, you drag and drop the email on top of it and attach it, and right click and change the follow-up date. And I never went into the client to do it. I can do all of that from my home screen.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I can right click and close activities. You can also do more than one at a time. So depending on how your agency has configured your download activities. So for the agencies that do download, maybe you're getting an activity every time. So I have an agency that couple that just converted to Epic, and we have an activity set up. If the premium goes up more than 10% on the downloaded renewal, that it creates an activity, which is a good thing. So it makes you go, oh, let me go look at this one, right? Mm-hmm. The problem is if last year's was 0, that means every single one is another activity, because of course it went up more than 10%. It used to be 0. So we can't turn it off for the rest of the agency, but this new acquisition, I showed them, sort on this column, click on the first one, hold down your shift key, click on the last one of those DRENs, because right now they're useless to you, and right click and close them. It takes all of 10 seconds. And you do that first thing in the morning. It's like, okay, that's cleaned up for today. Now, a year from now, are those going to make total sense? Yes.
Right.
And you're going to want to see if the premium went up more than 10%. But for now, for this group, that's kind of garbage. So, right. Okay. When you see, a DCAN is another one, DCAN, whenever a cancellation gets downloaded. Okay, that's important. You want to make sure the cancellation happened, and you want to know about the cancellations that you didn't know about.
Right.
Is this came through and you weren't aware of this one? It's like, oh, what's going on with this guy? Mm-hmm. So you got to work it. You literally have to work it. It's just,
but it seems like the home screen, if done right, is going to power your day, right?
Huge.
But it's like having a messy desk. If you have a messy desk,
yes.
It's the same thing. And there's a quote somebody that told me, it's like, it's not garbage in, garbage out. It's garbage in, garbage spreads. Because everybody gets their guard down a bit. Everybody's kind of cutting corners. And then all of a sudden, to your point about reports, none of the reports are right. So everyone's just on this like circling the drain of frustration. And it's not always clear to say, how do we fix it, right? It takes somebody like you sometimes getting involved with another set of eyes and saying, okay, we got to clean up the muck.
So one of the things that's always driven me nuts about being in the insurance space was that ever since I was 18, I heard the same thing. I'm so busy. And in over 20 years, no one's been able to solve that problem until now. I'm going to help your agency move from busy to productive and find more time in your day to reduce stress and improve your client's experience. Because you see your team running around all day and they seem stressed and overwhelmed. Every day for years, you've been hearing how busy people are, just like I was. But the phone records and activities tell a different story some days. You aren't sure what to do. You don't want your team feeling this way, right? What almost no agency understands is how to move their team from busy to productive and find minutes that add up to hours in their day. It's not just focusing on more people, it's making the people you have more productive. This can all happen when your agency has a plan to manage time and training with the right approach.
So if you're tired of hearing how busy what everyone is, but no one seems to have a plan except to hire more people, do you ask how you can help your team and they just give you that stare? I don't know, I'm just so busy. Your agency needs a different approach that engages the team and gives them a clear plan with expectations. This helps the agency embrace a time management strategy that simplifies everything, empowers everyone to succeed. This, of course, changes everything. So if you're sitting at team meetings with more questions than answers, and you're excited to bring new ideas to the agency, but it's always met with resistance, and the team is always saying how busy they are, but no one has a plan, including you, the leader, you may have something on your mind. And that's what we did. We had something on our mind, and we created Apex Time Management. Apex Time Management is actually a 6-month program that I personally install into agencies, but it was time for a remodel. And part of that remodel is we're going to be selling it for one time only for 2 weeks as a standalone course in our online university. So you can empower your team to do it directly, right away, right now. We, of course, included in our agency performance pack, which is a subscription for training. So if you want that and retention and sales and how to reduce remarketing, as well as new courses every quarter, we got you covered. But there's no sense in dilly-dallying. Let's go ahead and get to our website, agencyperformancepartners.com, where you can check out the new Apex Time Management Performance Pack. And while you're there, check out our shop. What's going to hurt? We might just have other tips and tools. But I'm here to help you solve the problem of busy, move your team to productive, all with online training that is interactive and makes a big difference when applied. So, who wants to get started? We're doing it at 20% off until the end of April 2021. So, get started, give us a call. We'd love to help you move from busy to productive.
And a lot of times what I do with agencies, I ask why a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, why? And then the answer is because we've always done it that way. Okay, we're really going to look at that one. And then we're going to look at, here's another way you might do it, or here's another way to think about it.
Right, right.
And a lot of the think about is, and for the staff, a lot of the, we need to think about this process really needs to be done with owners. Because for me, it's all about cost versus benefit. What is the cost of this process versus the benefit of this process? Non-pay cancellations. I know I'm preaching to the choir when I talk to you about it, but you know, calling a client 3 times, 4 times, really, man? And you're not touching me who pays my premium on time every year up front, and you never speak to me?
Right.
Why would I stay with you?
Right.
But you're going to keep the deadbeat. So from a reports
$700 policy.
Well, from a reports perspective, if staff is creating that activity when they take a payment or when they do these phone calls, okay, if there is a specific activity code for that, we can run a report on it. And I throw that in a pivot table in Excel.
Yep.
So now I have a count per client of how many we did in the last 12 months. And then I go run their book of business report and use an Excel function called VLOOKUP to stick the commission we make on that client right next to the count of how many times we did this. Now that is a huge eye opener for owners.
Oh,
they're like,
yeah.
What the heck are we doing? Exactly. What the heck are you doing?
And that's where we come in to play with the scripts and the empowering the team to have the conversation and saying,
Yes.
Hey, EFT or nothing, or we're not reshopping you again. It's over. You know, it's okay for us to walk away from that business.
But I do have some owners who come back and say, no, that's the way I want to do it. And I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Right.
I just need you to know that this is the cost to you. And it also means you have to staff up for it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have enough staff to handle this because they can't handle the changes.
I don't know if I ever told you, but we had an agency, and I won't say who or where, but every year they allowed the account managers each to fire, I forget, it was like 2 or 3 clients.
Mm-hmm.
And these ladies would go out for like margaritas, and it was like a March Madness bracket. Like they And it's like, well, if we do this one, then that you could do that one. Now the owner had final say, like you couldn't cancel the $200,000 account,
Of course.
maintenance. But it was like they would get through it, and they were so empowered by it because it was like, one, this person is dragging me down, sucking down my time, and we're never going to make them happy. And the owner would then call the underwriter and say, at renewal, please non-renew them. And it got them off the hook. They didn't have to have an awkward conversation. And I just remember it was like the greatest day of their lives. Like they would come back, and I mean, hours were spent. Maybe that's a healthy environment. Maybe that's not. You can do that either way. But it helped everybody understand that we're here to be a profitable business, not to have people drag us down all the time. And not every client is a good fit for every agency.
Well, and I think the biggest piece out of that is the account managers were heard by owners, which is so huge for them to feel heard.
I agree. Let's talk a little bit about notepads, because I'm not a fan. I think that that's where E&O issues go to breed. And I think it's a huge crutch for us not to embrace 2021 type technology with headsets, multiple monitors, direct entry. And I know it's not always simple or easy, right? But are there some tips you could give someone about, logging notes directly into Epic with bypassing some of the paper that you've seen be helpful in work?
So with Epic, there isn't a place on an account to just type a note. You need to add an activity. So with activities, and so say somebody does call with a change, the first thing I'd be doing is going to that policy, actions, endorse, revise existing line. When is it effective? What's it doing? Okay, now I have a place to put all my notes, and I can do that right while I'm on the phone with them. And then when I get off the phone, I go do it on the carrier website and let it come in and download. But my activity is there with all my notes, and life is good. When it comes to other things like that inquiry activity, to say the client just called with a question. One thing Epic has are called activity categories. So for the agencies out there that are not using activity categories, that means when one of your people goes to add a manual activity in Epic, they are presented with a massive list of activity codes that are like, I don't know which one to use. Which one's first alphabetically in the list? Okay, I'll use that one, which is bad. Okay, but can you create activity categories? Yes, you can. You could have one for personal lines, one for commercial lines, one for benefits, and one for producers. So, and you can set those categories as their default. It's called user defaults.
Sure.
So, and the same activity can be in all of those categories. But now if I'm the personal lines account manager and somebody calls with a question, I can go to the account if it's an account question, or if it's policy specific, I'll go to the policy and hit F9 on your keyboard. F9 on your keyboard is a keyboard shortcut to add an activity to wherever you are. So if I'm on the policy, it's going to create that activity on the policy. And then if my categories are set, it just defaulted me into personal lines. And now my drop-down list should be really short, because there are not a lot of manual activities that you should be adding in Epic. Because remember, the system generates so many activities, and you can't manually add one of those system-generated activities.
I like that.
So that would be my really strong suggestion, is set up the activity categories, put the codes in them, the manual codes that you allow people to use. If they come to you and go, I don't have a code for this. Okay, let's talk about it. What are you trying to do? Oh, that was supposed to start with endorse, revise existing line. That's why you don't see a code. Oh, okay. Missed that step. Yes, you did. Okay. But, workflows change. Okay. Workflows are living, breathing documents. But nothing is decided by one person. It's decided by committee. And there should be a workflow team in every agency, including a manager or an owner who has a vested interest in the outcome, who can look at the processes and go, is that what I intend? So many times, especially with renewals and claims mainly, I'll ask an owner, what are your service level expectations of your staff? And everybody goes, what? I said, no, literally, what do you expect them to do when a policy renews?
renew it.
Oh, you mean I need to define that? Yes, you do. Because what you define as the owner of this agency determines what we all do.
You mean it doesn't depend?
No, it does not depend.
Doesn't depend.
And it could be because your clients are tiered. And this is what we do for our A-level accounts and our B-level accounts and our C-level accounts, and that's fine. And you can use agency-defined categories in Epic to define those A-level, B-level, C-level, the tier of the account. That is a field you can see when you locate an account. You can go to your quick links and see the agency-defined categories. And you can see if it's an A, B, or C account. So but these conversations need to happen. And the people at the top absolutely need to be involved, because many times that owner sits there and listens to what the account managers say they do. And they go, wait a minute, well, no, that's not what I thought you did. And now they're getting the reality check. Or they're saying, wow, you're kind of overkilling it. I don't need all that done. But you don't know until somebody starts talking about it.
Absolutely. And, one thing that came up today that I think is kind of around the next thing of like organizing your desk is we see a lot of paper sometimes in agencies. So this came up today, and I believe that there's an answer in Epic, but you're the guru, so I thought I'd ask you. In Epic, is there a policy compare so people don't have to print and say, here's last year's renewal versus this year? Is there some way to compare policies?
You can compare service summary rows, but that's not going to compare last year to this year.
Deck pages.
There is a policy checking feature, and I think that does that. That is something that's through its company called Exari, which is an add-in software. Inside of Epic, I don't know of one that will do a policy comparison year to year to show me where the limits changed. Now, one thing to keep in mind in Epic that you have on all the personal lines of business, and a few of the commercial lines, it's called a coverage snapshot and policy quick view. So when you're on a policy, you can go up to on demand, and a coverage snapshot is just that. It's a nice, pretty summary of insurance, basically. Shows you the limits, shows you the drivers, the vehicles, all that good stuff. Could I print one of those out or look at one of those to PDF on last year's policy, and then pull it up for this year's policy and have it on 2 monitors and eyeball the changes? But I don't know of any way in Epic that Epic would do that automatically for you.
Okay, that's good feedback and good information. Let's talk a little bit about quoting over the phone for personal lines. I know we are big advocates of it, which, is the step of, we believe at a minimum, we should be doing direct data entry into the rater for personal lines. We can work through the bridge and firming up quotes and all that and work on getting it efficient. But so with Epic, everyone's using kind of different raters. Is there any tips or tricks around that come to mind that you can think of streamlining quoting?
So Epic has its built-in Epic quotes, which not in every state are enough companies involved with. So some agencies don't like it. For many, you're not getting the instant quote, the instant, give me back my quote. It does do the bridging. But the advantage of starting it in Epic is when it's sold, you just mark it as sold and Epic creates the policy for you. And now the download's ready to come in. And everything's in Epic. Nothing is sitting over in a third piece of software, with a PL rater or one of the third-party rating systems. Do I agree they should be on the phone? Keying that data directly into whatever rating program you're going to use? Absolutely. It's so aggravating to go through, give all this information, and now they got to call you back with something they missed because they didn't realize it because they weren't keying it into the system.
Or bad handwriting. That was mine.
So there you go. I had my insurance with one of my clients, and I moved from Virginia to Maryland. So I called and said, well, I moved. Oh, well, we'll get you a quote next week. I said, no, you won't. No. Later, Gator. I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, come on. and you know me, and you're telling me you're going to give it to me next week.
You have all my information.
Exactly. I'm like, what? That's crazy. No, the expectation is, especially with, the direct writers, is you're going to get a quote over the phone. We need to get into that mindset. And yes, you need 2 monitors, at least 2. Some agencies have 3.
Great.
The headset. Or hands-free. I personally don't use a headset. I use the speakers on my computer. So I'm still hands-free,
right?
And it's clear. But I would be popping up that comparative rater, and I'd be typing in their information as they gave it to me. And I'd be getting my quotes and talking to them about it right then. And I certainly would not be emailing them quotes.
Say it again. Do
No emailing quotes. We talk about the value. And Kelly, I know this is one of your huge deals, is you don't get a haircut with the cheapest person, which you don't. I mean, maybe you do, but there are things that you're not going to pay. You're not just going to go with the cheapest price. Of course you're not. So as an independent insurance agent, how do we establish the value to our client? So do we need to establish value? And the value is not calling them because they don't pay their bills. That's not the value. Okay.
The value exists, and you have to feel valuable. That's part of the challenge. Yes. Is that so much in insurance, people don't want to be on the phone with us. I hear that all the time. Quoting over the phone. People don't want to be on the phone with us that long. I'm like, not if you're boring.
Right.
Like, absolutely not. But if you're engaging and you're talkative and you say, oh, you're buying a new car, that's great. What kind of car? You make them feel a little special, then everything works out fine. I think what they're really saying sometimes is, I don't want to be on the phone with a client that much. And right. That's a different conversation, right?
Well, and the other thing and this goes back to when I was in my 20s and I sold personal lines, and the boss I had at the time, who was wonderful, he wanted me to sell more. And I just looked at that as, I am not a used car salesman. Right. Excuse me. I don't do that. And then he said to me, because I answered the phones too, and I sold and serviced personal lines and did the bookkeeping. I was the 3rd employee in an agency, so a really tiny agency, which is an awesome place to learn. But he said to me, how bad are you going to feel when one of your clients calls with a claim that's not covered because you didn't ask? And I was like, oh my God, I have to ask them everything, because my value is taking care of people.
Right.
That's what I do. That's literally my value system, is I'm there to take care of you. So I am here to educate you. They are your choices to make, but I'm going to make sure you understand your choices. And I don't come across preachy. It's just, here's some examples, do with it what you will. Same way I work with agencies. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just pointing out, this might work better for you. You do what you want to do. I get paid either way. But same thing with account managers in particular. Producers are a different animal, but account managers for the most part are not salespeople. Many are nurturers. And
sweethearts. They're sweethearts. They don't want to hear no. They don't want to give clients bad news, but unfortunately it's part of the job. And
yes,
I love the mental switch you made, because when you see account managers get that mental switch, it changes so much. It's like, whew, I'm not a producer. No, we're not asking you to prospect a cold call. Nope. We're asking you just to take a client and make sure that they are educated to make decisions for their family or for their business.
Right. And then you get off the phone feeling like, I took care of them. I did what I needed to do for them. Okay, great. Next one.
Moving on. Let's talk a little bit about time off, because, things happen. We just are still kind of in some phase of the pandemic. We're not really sure maybe where we are in it still. It's been a year when we're shooting this podcast, but I have a big belief, if I call out sick today, I shouldn't come back to all my, tasks, activities, and, whoever called in, they got handled. But let's be honest, if I'm out for a day, things still land on my desk and I'm coming back not feeling great and to this pile of work. And for me, we let customers down because there were promises made that we didn't go in and take a look at the tasks or the activities for the day to make sure that customers will reach out to and said, hey, she's out, I'm here to help you, or can she call you tomorrow, whatever it is. How in Epic can we manage time off and making sure that, nothing's falling from the sky if someone's out for a day?
So on your home screen, you can customize your view. So if I'm planning to be out next week, I can customize my view and show me the follow-ups through today plus 7 days or plus 14 days. So now I can see everything coming up. And from there, I could change the who owner of the activity for someone else who's going to manage that for me. That's one way you can manage that. Another way is on the employee setup in Epic. It's called View Others. So there's a tab there for View Others, where I can say that all the people in my personal lines department can see each other's activities on the home screen. I mean, if you go to the client, you can see them anyway.
Right.
But I want them to be able to see them on the home screen when they need to. And again, you go into your customized view and you can check the box next to the name of the person who's out today. So I can see the open activities and I can see which ones need to be addressed today. And if the client calls in, I'll see that open activity right there. I can add a note to it or whatever and take care of that client. So the View Others, it's those rights are set on the employee of who else you're allowed to see. And then on your customized view screen, you can check off who you want to see, or if you don't want to see anybody but yourself, that's fine. But I just want to have the access. I won't have it up every day. I don't need to see everybody's activities. Normally, if a client calls in, that's the first thing I'm doing is locating the account and looking at the activities, right? So it's not something I have to have on my home screen, but it certainly is convenient. And when someone's out, I can quickly see that person's open activities.
Right, and go there and figure out what's going on. And that's another benefit of a work group, right? If somebody's out that day, everybody else can just see, hey, this is the work we have in the pile. Let's get to it,
Well, the work, if it's my activity, it's not in a work group. It's either in a work group or it's mine. But if it's mine and someone else can view my open activities, then they could see what else is going on. And, if there's 4 people in the department, they're like, okay, you take these and I'll take these and divvy them up. And you can highlight more than one activity at a time and change the who owner and flip it over to somebody else. And it may be a department manager does that if someone's out and takes those activities that she sees or he sees are urgent and flips those to somebody else and says, take care of these today.
I want to end just with this one thing that you showed one of my clients, which is email templates in Epic, and being able to kind of have a place where you could store just, here's your auto ID card, here's your certificate, and make it super simple for people to not have to type the same email 1,000,001 times, right? And I have some clients that have fallen in love with this area, Sue.
So they're called Outlook Quick Parts.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not Outlook templates. Outlook templates take a few more clicks to use, whereas Quick Parts are it's one section where you just have chunks of text that you want to be able to use over and over again. And to set up a quick part, you open up a new email. So you have to have a new email open. And in the body of the email, not in the to or the from, you won't see this. You need to be in the body. Type out the text that you want to use one time or copy and paste it in from somewhere else. Then highlight that text and go up to your insert ribbon. You'll see an icon for quick parts. And then choose save selection to gallery. And then you'll be prompted to give this chunk of text a name. And whatever you name it, your quick parts will be in alphabetical order by what you call them in your quick parts. So the next time you go to do an email and say you're in Epic and you do a right click send via email from your attachment and your Outlook opens and your cursor's right in the body of the email, you can go up to insert quick part and grab that text and plopped it in there for you. And that is editable text. You can change it any way you'd like. And then once you've got that, and okay, now I can do my insert quick parts. You can actually right click on that picture of quick parts, that icon, and add it to your quick access toolbar in Outlook. So now I don't have to go to insert quick parts. When I do right click send via email and my email opens up from Epic, my cursor is already in the body. Now I have an icon on my toolbar at the top that I just click the drop down next to, and there's all my quick parts. And these can be paragraphs of text.
Right.
Okay. It is a huge, that's another one I show everybody. It's like, we're doing Epic training, but I'm going to teach you an Outlook thing because this is really cool. And everybody loves it. It's like rock your world. One thing that came out with Epic 21, which just got released last week, is the ability to create email templates in Epic that can pull data from the client, the policy. You can, like a Word template would, but now they're going to be email templates. So if I'm on that client and I have that auto ID card or that cert, when I'm in the distribution manager, if I want to send it out through distribution, you'll be able to choose an email template, which can now plop in like a quick part, but now it's going to be built into Epic, and it can pull in client and policy information as well, where a quick part can't. That's just in Outlook. So lots of cool things.
Yeah, and I'm so appreciative of your time. I just wanted to hear that because I think writing the same email, 5 minutes saved every day is 21.7 hours a year. So how many times are you sending the same email and you think it's, oh, I'll just type it, it's 2 seconds. It adds up, people. So that's where you're going to find all your time. Well, Sue, in respect of your time, you have given us a full hour of epic goodness. I got to learn a new word, which is trying to epicize Tam, or what, I forget what you said. It was so good. Tamarize. You're trying to tamarize Epic. If people want to find more about you, because they're just like, hey, this is amazing. I need to be on the Sue train. What's the best way for them to find you?
So our website is alexant.com, ALEXANT.com. We do managed network services, but I do the consulting piece for TAM and Epic agencies. So there's a tab there for consulting, and you can see all about me. We have some Excel macros that we program to help with importing direct bill commissions. If this is something you are interested in, you can reach out to me. And we have an Excel macro that we give away starting 15 years ago to calculate retention in an agency using Excel. So this is using Excel. Okay, so that's where you can find me. You can also Google me and put in Sue Good Insurance, and you'll probably see stuff. Well, just because I teach it, applied client network stuff, so it comes up.
Yes, well, I appreciate you so much for doing this. Thank you, and thank you
You're
for
very welcome.
all of your epic goodness in the world.
Thanks, Kelly.
Bye. So what did everybody think? Are you just wanting to hang on to Sue's every word like I am? I would love to know what's in that brain of how to use Epic. And if she was an agency owner in my town and on Epic, I just feel like they would be almost unstoppable. So if you're interested in learning more about Sue's services and what they do, definitely hop over to her website. If you love the dialogue between the two of us, you can also check out our online school. She's written all of our courses, so you don't have to worry about how are we going to track this. We've done that for you for our renewal review calls, for time management, and for sales. So you get the best of both of us all on our online school. Or we have other programs where Sue's trainings will come into play if you're an Epic user. So definitely hope that you watch this with your team, talk about the things she talks about, make sure you're doing the little things. Remember, 5 minute saves adds up to 21.7 hours a year. And so we're not going to find hours in our day, but we can save 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. It does make a huge difference. So thank you, Sue, once again for joining us. And hopefully you'll check out our new time management course. We totally revamped it. And Sue's input was critical in that. So everyone, have a great day. Let us know how we can help.